Hi there, everybody. How's everything going with you? Hopefully, everything's doing well. We're almost halfway through the year. I can't believe it, but I don't know why I tell you. Just it's better than nothing, I guess. Okay, today I'd like to say something about from a comment that I got in a book, and I've showed you this before about make it stick. But I was thinking in terms that because of the time we're in June, and in the northern hemisphere, at least, most of you are out of school, or at least if you're out of school for the spring, you might be in summer school or something. But at this time of year, most of you have children that just recently got out of school and had their exams, or maybe even you had some exams. And so I was going to raise the question of did you do a lot of cramming for your exams? And major question is, do you remember anything that you did or learned, quote unquote, air quotes on that, when you did that cramming? If you had to go back and take a test on that same material today, what do you think you would do? I dare say that most of you would probably not do really, really well. And you'd have to go back and quote cram again. I put air quotes around cram from the standpoint that I'm going to refer to that maybe interchangeably with the term massed practice. Massed meaning you do it all at once, which basically is what cramming is doing. So the concept of mass practice usually doesn't work really well, as most of you probably already know if you've ever crammed for anything. And this goes for anything, whether you're studying for your driver's test or whether you're having to do something because you're trying to make a presentation or something at work or whatever. When you do a lot of work in one small period of time, or maybe two small periods of time, is just before you start having to do whatever it is you need to do, like take the test or give a speech or whatever. Generally speaking, you're not going to remember it much quickly after that. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, you have a test on a Thursday, you study for it and cram on Wednesday and Thursday. What did I say? You have to take the test on Friday and you study for it on Wednesday and Thursday. Odds are by Monday, you're not going to remember most of the material that you crammed for on Wednesday and Thursday. I think that probably makes sense because most of us have done that at some point in time in our lives. On the other hand, we've got retrieval practice, which is basically something that you do. And I talked about this before recently about doing things on different places at different times. And retrieval practice actually works better for you because it fits into most of your schedules. Most people do not have the time to take like 2 or 3 hours to try and study things. Many times you'd have to struggle to just get 15 or 20 or 30 minutes during the day to find something to study. This actually works out to your benefit if you use it judiciously. Because the idea here is that if you take those 15 or 20 minutes and study something, like go over some flashcards or some such thing like that, and do it consistently over time, you will actually remember things better at the end of, say, 6 weeks or 6 months or whatever, the time frame that you're looking for, than if you try and do everything over in that Wednesday and Thursday cramming time period. Again, I refer to children. Most of them learn things over time when they're children, well, little children, because they're getting it in bits and pieces. And over time, you hear it. I've mentioned this about the alphabet song before. They don't learn it all at once. Excuse me. They hear it periodically, and they do it again, and they do it again, and they do it again. Massed practice, they don't do it, cram it. They're not taking a test on it. They're doing a retrieval practice over time. Most of what they learn, most of what you've learned is most of what you've learned of the things that you've got in your world that you keep doing, like how to write and know the alphabet, or some of the songs you sing, maybe the little engine that could, some of those little things that you learned in retrieval practice when you were children, you still remember. But you can't remember most of the things that you tried to learn if you took a course or you tried to remember just last week for whatever reason. So this is where the retrieval practice comes in, because again, as I mentioned before, when you get things here and you get things there and you get things there, it gets you in a different set of circumstances. Your mind is having to put those connections together, so it has to work a little harder. This is one reason people don't like to do it, but it actually stays in your head longer. Now, if you want to think about it, this is also, you can think in terms of saying something like you're giving yourself a lot of little tests. Now, I know the word test is not really popular. It's an unpopular 4-letter word. But actually, if you think in terms of that you're giving yourself multiple small tests over the course of time, you'll actually remember better. There is a lot of research that indicates that if you're in a classroom Or if a teacher has a classroom and periodically gives her class little tests, no major big tests, just a little pop quiz, so to speak, the students will do better on the final exam than they will if they just have the final exam have to cram for it, because they've got those little retrieval practice periods scattered throughout their learning session. And I know I haven't made this really clear, or at least I don't think I've made this really clear, but the idea is if you take, say, 15 minutes a day and 15 minutes the day after tomorrow and 15 minutes, later on in the week, and look at something, maybe go over flashcards or reread something or look at your notes or some such thing like that, and you do it consistently, you'll do better in the tail end than you will if you try and cram all at once. Now, some of you are going to say, for example, when you say you didn't read your whole book, that may be true, but think about it from the standpoint that if you understand the basics, let's just say you've got 50 pages to read and you only managed to get through 25. If you understand those 25 pages, you're probably better able to make some educated guesses about what's in the last 25 pages, especially if you followed my reading techniques that I talked about some time ago, than you are if you don't understand any of it. If you're trying to cram all 50 pages into your head at once, it's sort of like sticking everything into a blender and you're trying to see where everything's connected, and you're probably not going to be able to do it as well. But if you really understand those 25 pages, you're probably going to be able to make better guesses, and things are going to be, and more educated guesses to boot, because they're going to fall in line with what you understand already from the first 25 pages. Whereas if you don't do anything and you leave it up to cramming, much of it is not going to make sense, or if it makes sense, you'll have these brilliant insights that you're not going to remember 3 days later. Have you ever been there? I know I have. So I hope that helped. My suggestion to you is, if you've got to learn anything, whatever that may be, you're trying to memorize for a speech that you have to give, whether you're going to take another test, whether you want to get your children ready for something like for school this coming year, not that they're wanting to do anything during school, mind you, I realize that, but you want to start thinking in terms of how you want to do this. Think in terms of possibly being able to do little, in a sense, pop quizzes or fun quizzes, or something like if you want dessert, what's the capital of Ohio, or some such thing like that. You'll get more things done and accomplished over time than you will if you try and cram. I hope this makes sense, and I hope you understand, and I go back and I can give you the reference from the book if you want me to do that. In fact, I probably will. So if it was helpful, let me know. And again, if you think it could help somebody else, pass it on and share them, and let them know that I'm doing this, and give me some comments back. I really would appreciate. So that's it for today. We'll see you next week. I hope this was helpful. Bye.